Concentrated yeast extracts, of which the iconic Australian product Vegemite is one, were invented in the 19th century by a German chemist named Justus von Liebig, also known as the father of the fertiliser industry, and the inventor of stock cubes. First company to make use of lees left over from brewing was the British Marmite Food Extract Company in 1902. Rich in vitamin B1, the spread became popular as a health food following the discovery of vitamins in 1912 and was included in the rations of British soldiers in World War I. This meant the supplies of Marmite to Australia became scarce during the course of the war, which in turn gave birth to the need for an Australian version of a yeast spread. Fred Walker was born in Hawthorn, Melbourne in 1884. Leaving school at 15, he worked for J. Bartram and Sons, where he learned canning of food and refrigeration. At the age of 19, he started his own company in Hong Kong in January 1903. At the time, there was a boycott on American goods in China, and Fred made the journey to China hoping that Australian goods would be welcomed. They were, and all went well for a while until currency fluctuations sent him broke. Nevertheless, he was able to pay off his debts, had built a good reputation and made solid business connections. He returned to Australia in 1908 and exported butter to China. In 1910, he made his first batch of red feather cheese in his own home and was exporting canned meats and dripping as well to South Africa, in addition to Asia. During World War I, he supplied foodstuffs to Britain. Soon he had offices in Sydney, London and New Zealand. Adjustments to trade after the war left him again in desperate financial straits. In 1921 he had assets of £2 and liabilities of £200,000. Such was his record as a businessman and personal confidence that he was able to convince his creditors to accept debentures. Within 10 years they were all paid off as his company saw success, particularly with the yeast extract and a partnership with the American cheese company Kraft. Fred Walker and Company in Melbourne assigned the task of developing a recipe for a Marmite substitute to a young food chemist named Cyril Callister around 1922. A decade later, in 1931, Cyril obtained his doctorate from the University of Melbourne, largely on the basis of his work in the development of Vegemite. The new paste was ready for production and sale after approximately 18 months' development in late 1923. Vegemite received trademark number 37,184 from the Commonwealth Government in November 1923. Vegetable extracts for use as food or as ingredients in food was the description provided. Other brands at the time, like Kingfisher brand sauces and pickles, Sunnyvale Australian port, and Clarito toothpaste, a delightful antiseptic dentifrice, have long since vanished. Advertisements for Vegemite were soon everywhere in print. Another method of promotion favoured by the company were local exhibitions held in cities and many larger country towns. For example, the Herald Health exhibition in Melbourne Town Hall opened on the 2nd of October 1924. The Australian Made Preference Week exhibition was held in November 1924 in Wagga, while the Advance Australia exhibit at Bathurst in February 1925 and Wellington in March of the same year featured Vegemite displays. These exhibitions were intended to show that Australian-made goods were not inferior to American products, as many Australians believed. To absorb unemployment, to keep Australian manufacturing strong, ready for the next war, and to increase population. Yet it was decided that many in New South Wales were still unaware of the three outstanding features of Vegemite. These were the sheer delight of consuming it, the infinite variety of its uses, and its invaluable benefits to the health of every user. To help further with advertising this knowledge, a competition was held, commencing in October 1926. On offer were 21 prizes, the major one being a Jowett car, a British mark made between 1906 and 1955. There were also 3 gramophones and 17 parcels of Fred Walker food items worth £1 each. Contestants had to answer some questions regarding Vegemite, and those judged the best won. In January 1927, the winner of the Jowett car was announced as Mrs. Wyatt of Manly. By 1927, recipes using Vegemite were appearing in newspapers, and the spread was popular with vegetarians. In 1928, a recipe for baked biscuits, Vegemite and cheese appeared. By 1931, it was being added to stuffed eggs, jellied tomato salad, and iced milk drinks. Sold by chemists as well as grocers, as in the 1930s it was recommended for healthy babies. In 2017, Victoria University's College of Health and Biomedicine conducted an online survey of 520 people in Australia, New Zealand and the United Kingdom to see how yeast-based spreads such as Vegemite, Marmite and Promite affect the moods of those who regularly include them in their diet. It was discovered that people who ate these types of foods suffered from less stress and anxiety, believed to be a result of ingesting B vitamins. The health benefits were also used for animals, such as chickens and puppies. A cat which had developed rickets in 1950 following a bout of typhus was recommended treatment of raw meat and a little milk each day, but varied with liver, rabbit or fish if available. A smear of Marmite or Vegemite was added to the diet. In a letter dated the 21st of August 1941, Stan Hurley, a 25-year-old soldier, wrote to his mother in New South Wales. He explained he had been captured by German troops on Crete and was now being held in a POW camp in Germany. He asked for foodstuffs, particularly Marmite, Vegemite, chocolate and halibut oil. Stan remained a prisoner until 1945 and lived until at least 2002, so Vegemite in his diet was certainly not to his detriment. Vegemite was also included in evacuation kits during World War II, should children need to be sent to the countryside for safety. Vegemite was rationed during the war, but by the end of the 1940s, 9 out of 10 Australian homes had a jar of the spread in their pantry. In the early 1950s, a series of 24 Amazing Kids ads were run in newspapers to promote Vegemite. Youngsters who excelled at archery, show jumping and playing the accordion were profiled with precocious actresses, a ballerina, a surfer and a scholar. In 1954, Miss Teenage Victoria was featured in one of the ads. However, the defining moment in Vegemite advertising occurred late in 1953, when a song written by Alan Weeks was recorded for use as a radio jingle, premiering in 1954. The song, Happy Little Vegemites, was used for a decade on radio, and once television began in Australia in 1956, as the song played over images of happy, healthy Australian kids. Although it fell out of favour as hackneyed in the late 60s, the tune regained popularity in the 1980s as a nostalgic reminder of post-war Australian society, and continues to be used in advertising. The phrase also entered Australian vernacular, referring to a group of contented people, or facetiously a group of discontented people. To celebrate the 100th anniversary of Vegemite, a new version of the original television ad is being filmed for release in October 2023. Vegemite has become so much a part of the fabric of Australian culture that 4 $2 coins have been released by the Australian Mint to celebrate the centenary. Vegemite has already featured on an Australian commemorative coin in the 2019 Great Aussie Coin Hunt release, a series of 26 coins for each letter of the alphabet, with V for Vegemite. It has been a featured ingredient in other processed foods, everything from biscuits and chips to pizza, chocolate bars, and even brownie mix. In May 2023, a museum opened in the Victorian town of Beaufort, dedicated to Cyril Callister and his iconic creation. A survey in 2014 found that 7.5 million people ate Vegemite every week, most of them Australians and New Zealanders, as well as some connoisseurs in the United Kingdom. The spread is certified kosher, halal, and suitable for vegetarians, meaning that the only inhibiting factor for eating it is its distinctive tar-like appearance, which strangely puts some newbies off. In October 2008, the billionth jar was manufactured in Melbourne, and in 2023, with 22 million jars produced annually, Vegemite seems a long way from slipping into the dark corners of history.